This is a 1796 Watt Canal Pump engine. I'm Darren, and this is the Industrial Revolution. Now, if you've been watching my channel a while, you probably actually recognize this. I was just here back in July of 2024, and I made a video about this very engine. And I received a lot of great comments. I love reading comments, so please do keep posting those. But I received three types of comments that said I didn't get it quite right. First one was they said what I identified as the condensing cylinder is actually a steam manifold. Second one is that the big cylinder on the left here, quite a few people said that's a double acting cylinder, not a single acting cylinder. And number three, and the big one, is many people said this is not an atmospheric engine, it's a steam engine. James Watt did steam engines, and Thomas Newcomen did atmospheric engines. Well, let's take a look at these three things and see what I got right, and we'll see what I got wrong. Okay, so this is the 1796 Boulton and Watt rotative steam engine. It's actually located here at the Henry Ford Museum, right next to the canal pump engine we were just looking at. It was made in 1788, so it was made 8 years before the canal pump. So obviously everything that Watt had invented on this, he had available for the canal pump. Let's take a look at a couple of these things here. First, you obviously have the same big cylinder to the left. It's quite a bit smaller, but it's the same concept. But over to the right of it, you have two larger pipes. Ignore the silver pipe, that one's a new addition. You have the two iron pipes that are gray. One of those is the steam manifold, and the other one is the condenser manifold. You can see it's two distinct pipes. You can't run steam and condenser through the same pipe. Okay, back at the canal pump engine now, you see there's in fact only one manifold pipe to the right. So this large pipe is connected here. You can see the boiler in the background. The boiler pipe, it goes up to that horizontal pipe and comes down through this vertical pipe and connects to this cylinder. I see it connects both top and bottom, which might make you think it's connected both top and bottom, but there's only one pipe at the top. As we look around, you can see there's not another pipe fitting at the top of this, but on the bottom, you look off the bottom of that pipe, you have this large valve assembly here, and that connects in the pit to this horizontal pipe. Goes diagonally across there. Just hard to see. Let's go around the other side of the pump here, over on the pumping side, and you can get a better look at this. Looking in through here, you can see the cylinder just through that doorway. As we look down, you see there's a pipe that comes into that cylinder on the left. That cylinder on the left is the condensing cylinder. The one on the right is actually an air compressor. So, first claim that I had misidentified that smaller cylinder as a condensing cylinder instead of a steam manifold. Yep, that's a steam manifold. Commenters were right. Okay, what about the other two claims? Let's take a look. So Watt's first big invention, of course, was to add the condensing cylinder. That's something Newcomen never did. Watt did this, and it created some huge efficiency improvements. 40, 50, 60% improvements in efficiency for Newcomen engines just by adding that condensing cylinder. Massive improvement. It was really only the first of many inventions that James Watt made that made steam engines like this far more efficient. But Watt didn't stop there. Watt actually recognized the potential value of using high pressure steam, what he called strong steam, and that you'd have a great deal more power if you would use high pressure steam rather than condenser. And the issue is really, atmospheric pressure is about 15 psi. The steam pressure that was used in Newcomen engines and Watt engines was about 5 psi. So you'd use the 5 psi, which would push one end of the cylinder up typically. You'd connect it to a condenser somehow, whether you spray water in it or open it to a separate condensing cylinder. And now the bottom, you added 5 psi of steam to your 15, so now you have 20 psi at the bottom, 15 psi at the top. You condense the bottom, it collapses down to only maybe a couple of psi. And that means you have like 13 psi net difference pushing down on the top. Now what if you could double that? What if you could have 26? What if you could have 50? What if you could have 500 psi? Think of the power you could get from this. And Watt experimented with that. And he experimented up to about 1 atmosphere, about 15 psi. But he didn't really go beyond that in production. And the problem was that the boiler technology unfortunately just wasn't there yet. In the late 1700s, early 1800s, the boiler technology wasn't there to safely hit those kinds of pressures. He looked at using strong steam, anything over 1 atmosphere of pressure, so anything above about 15 psi, and experimented with it, but never really used it. In fact, according to Richard Trevithick, the inventor of the first locomotive, Watt actually suggested hanging for anyone who actually would dare to bring high pressure steam into the world, because it was just too dangerous. So when Watt said this of Trevithick, Trevithick was using high pressure steam. He was using about 25 psi actually was all for his locomotives, which were not in fact atmospheric engines, because there's simply no way in a locomotive to run condensers like that. So did Watt use high pressure? No. Watt stuck with atmospheric engines. He stuck with the condensers through his whole career. And the fact is, they worked great. Now, were these atmospheric engines or steam engines? I actually have a separate video on that. Check that out. There's a link down in the description. So that leaves the question of whether these are single or double acting boilers. And the question is, can you tell just by looking at them? Well, let's take a look. So as we mentioned earlier, we're back at the rotative engine here. And you can see you have not one, but 2 separate manifolds here. The larger gray vertical cylinders. Steam comes into the front one here with the silver pipe. When this was first set up, this was actually set up to operate on compressed air. But a big factor is the top here. If you look up the top and you see you have a solid rod connecting to this piece at the top, which is called the parallel motion. Absolute horrible name for a noun in my opinion, but that's what Watt named it. That's one of his inventions here. And then we can come over here to the other end of the rod, of the other end of the main beam. And as we look down, this is a solid rod also. And it goes down to the sun and planet gear, which is combined with the parallel motion is what allowed this engine to be a rotary engine. Remember, your cylinder is going straight up, and your piston's going straight up and down. The beam's going back and forth. The parallel motion there adjusts for it. On this end, this vertical rod down to the sun and planet gear, as you can see, is variable. Now let's walk right next door here. I did mention these are sitting right next to each other. And if we take a look here, we see coming out the top of the cylinder is a solid rod. That solid rod connects up to the top. Sorry about the light. Try to work around this way a little bit. Connects up to the top, and you can see at the bottom of that rocker you have a chain. So there's a chain connecting the piston rod. Over here on the other side, it's all chain. Chains are very strong under tension, pulling on them. Chains are completely worthless to push on. So this pump was built so it could not push on it. It could only pull on it. And because of that, we can pretty safely assume, even though the top of the cylinder does appear to be capped, because there's no exhaust from the top of the cylinder, because there is chains connecting it on both ends, this was clearly a single acting cylinder. So do I make mistakes? Yeah, it happens. If you see something that looks like I may have made a mistake in a video, by all means, please tell me. Let me know, and let me know why you think it's a mistake. In the case of this, what I identified as a condenser cylinder really wasn't. I did go out and find a engineering report written on this very machine. It's written up by the engineering department at Michigan State University. And that identified exactly what we are looking at, and it did identify the condenser cylinder that way. It also identified this as a single acting cylinder and as an atmospheric engine. Sometimes what I will say may not be entirely obvious in the video. In museums and stuff, you can't always poke the camera everywhere that you can see. So sometimes I might be right, it just doesn't look that way. So feel free to ask also. And sometimes, honestly, I just don't explain stuff well enough. So this is certainly not Watt's first engine. It was one of his later engines. And Watt had a lot of inventions after this one was built. And he didn't use them all here. You know, he didn't use the sun and planet gear. He didn't use the regulator. He didn't use the parallel motion. He didn't use double acting cylinders. And why not? And honestly, the answer is because James Watt was a smart guy. Canal pumps only have to pull the shaft up. Gravity will push it down. Canal pumps don't have to go real fast. There's no reason for them to go real fast. In fact, if you try to make them go real fast, you'll have problems with the water not refreshing in the column fast enough, and you'll just be wasting fuel. So a lot of these canal pumps would run 10, 20, 25, maybe 30 revolutions per minute. They tended to be on the slower end of that, though, not the faster end. And that was just because that's what worked best. So he had all these other inventions. They were around, he'd invented them, but he just didn't need them. So, like I said, James Watt was a smart guy. When he built this, he knew what he needed, he knew what he didn't need, and he included the stuff that he needed to include. And that's why this is the Industrial Revolution. Hey, before you go, I do need your help to keep this channel going, and also to help keep it growing. The easiest thing you can do to help is just to click the like button. Also, if you can do subscribe and notify, then you'll know when I release new videos, and you'll be able to watch those. Also, I have a Patreon page over at patreon.com/industrialrevolution. And if you have any questions, comments, places you think I should go visit, please leave those down in the comments section of the video. That's actually the best way to tell YouTube, hey, this is a channel worth watching. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you at the next one.